Welcome back. Episode 24, Griddyiron Gang. What we have today is a Week 11 recap. We'll start it off with the Thursday night football game. We had the Tennessee Titans on the road facing the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. This game, Packers were down a couple key guys defensively, but I think the game plan remained the same, and that was to stop Derrick Henry. Offensively, I think they got away from what had been working for them for the previous couple weeks, and that's been a balanced attack. This game, they had 39 pass attempts to 19 rush attempts, and that kind of was feeding into the fact of Tennessee having 38 plays ran in the first half. Tennessee had a methodical but efficient attack offensively, and I think defensively, they held their own with a couple key guys down themselves. My takeaway from this game, though, I think Aaron Rodgers really cost his team the game. Something you don't really say a lot and something you don't ever see a lot, but he was missing a lot of throws this game. He wasn't really on time with them. He was overthrowing some guys, underthrowing some guys. Yeah, there was a few drops, and, Lazard did give up on a route late, you could say. But ultimately, I put this one on Rodgers, man. His body language wasn't great out there. Sometimes his attitude was showing that as well. And, ultimately, as a leader of this team, I know you don't want to be a leader. You don't really act like a leader, but you have to take this one on your shoulders right here.
Yeah, man. It comes down to as good as this man is and can be and has been. Come on, bro. You gotta take these young guys under your wing and not show the frustration. Lead them. Not throw up your arms every other play. Shake your head. Roll your eyes. You really got to work with your young guys. You just signed a extension. I don't know if this will be his last year there or not, but if I'm the Packers and the front office, the coaching staff, you realize the greatness of Rodgers, but you also realize it's probably coming to that point where it's time to move on and go our separate ways because it's becoming a cancer almost. And they have a lot of talent over there, both sides of the ball, and especially young talent. And I think it's disheartening for these young guys to realize this, one of the GOATs just doesn't care for you guys. And it really just lets the team down, brings the team chemistry down. And like you said, what they did against Dallas is the blueprint to beat Dallas. You got to effectively run the ball, which Green Bay is built to do that very well. And throughout the games, throughout the season so far, Rodgers has been missing throws, and we're not used to seeing that from him. You're not going to win a game giving Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon 18 total touches apiece. 18 total touches combined. It's just that's not going to work for you guys. If they can do what they did against Dallas, they have a chance to be a pretty good team overall this year. But I think it's a little bit too late to turn anything around at this point. But when you look at Tennessee side of the ball, it wasn't the greatest game from Derrick Henry, but he did tote the rock 28 times, which that ultimately wore down that defense. They were able to keep the Green Bay offense off the field a lot overall in this game. And when they're on pace, I think to run almost 80 plays for the total game, I think the Cowboys were on that type of pace against the Vikings as well. But this was a game Green Bay just had to win though to keep their playoff hopes alive, and it just didn't happen. And they did the best they could against Henry. He still had 87 yards and a touchdown, but when you look at Tannehill's numbers, only 5 incompletions, 2 touchdowns, and one of those being a pick. Out of the incompletions, 333 yards. We don't see these type of numbers from Tannehill, so it's pretty mind-boggling to see, especially a Packers defense that is, I think, top 3 or top 5 overall in pass defense. So I wouldn't have expected this type. If you would have said these numbers to me before the game, I would have said, "You're out of your mind." Only way Tennessee's winning is if it's a big game for Derrick Henry. Tannehill is just, overall, he's not going to do this game to game. So they needed this big time from them. But I did love the creativity overall with their play calling on offense. I think they really got creative, especially down in the red zone. I really loved that, handoff to Derrick Henry, jump pass to Hooper. That was, you can't get any better than that because that had Green Bay fooled all the way. But this game, overall, nice to see Green Bay lose, but I don't know. It's just, I'm not a big fan of either team when it comes to obviously playoff potential, especially for Green Bay because they're pretty much out of it. But Tennessee, there's good record, probably win that division, but I don't like them in the playoffs at all.
Nah, the only team I probably like them against would be New England if they end up making it, or the Jets, a team that doesn't have a lot of offensive firepower. You mentioned Hooper in this game. He did finish with 2 touchdowns. Burks was 7 for 11, and then Woods was 6 for 69. So good contributions from the new additions as well for the Titans. Offensively for the Packers, we know. You did mention those young guys, and Watson has been showing up big. I think he has 5 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. Cobb and Lazard, the guys that I guess you would say he trusts, they played okay. 11 for 130, but ultimately, I still put this on Rodgers. The offense just didn't show up enough. 27 points, I don't think is. You don't want to see that given up to this Tennessee offense, but you should be able to score more than 17, especially given that Tennessee was down a couple of defensive guys.
Oh, for sure. And when it comes to the thing, when we talk about this being on Rodgers, it's he just didn't go out there and lead his team like he's supposed to. Like he's the ultimate guy on that offense to lead that team, get them rolling, get in a rhythm, and he just couldn't do it. And when you get it, there was a couple key drops from Lazard that I think really irked Rodgers right away, and he just didn't seem to recover from a couple of those key drops in the beginning of the game. And Watson, 5 touchdowns in 2 games, but you look at the overall yardage. I think the yardage was pretty good against Dallas. But 4 for 48. 2 touchdowns, but overall, I'm not impressed with his season, to be honest. Great couple games, but I'm not impressed with the guy.
It's something to build off of, though, for a young guy. 5 touchdowns in 2 games is something a lot of guys haven't done in this league. So you and I probably feel the same about him. Rodgers probably feels like we do, but for him, that's good for him going forward. And maybe he goes into the offseason and shows Rodgers he is a valuable number 2 or maybe even a low-tier number 1 next year. Who knows?
I just don't see where you go from here as the Packers organization because you keep holding on to Rodgers and you're just putting yourself more in a hole for the future. And I'm not saying Love is the guy by any means, but you got to do something because there comes a point where it's just, I think overall, a lot of these Packer fans want to move on from Rodgers because it's just becoming dysfunctional.
You could say that at some point that does outweigh the talent and the production. So, and since you're not producing and your talent seems to be waning a little bit with your age, it's probably about that time.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on, we have Philly at Indy. Last week, Saturday got his first win as a head coach in the league as Philly took their first loss to the Washington Commanders. This game, though, Indy came out strong. They really fought from beginning to end, came out, had 7 points on their first drive, held the Eagles scoreless in the first quarter, and took a lead into the half 10-3. Took a lead into the fourth quarter by 10 points, but ultimately Jalen Hurts had a little bit of magic, finished the comeback, trailing by 10 points going into the fourth quarter, like I mentioned, and 17-16 was the final score. Philly stays at the top of the NFC. Indy's still fighting for their playoff life, but playing a lot better under Jeff Saturday, seemingly.
Oh, for sure. That's the biggest takeaway I took away from this game was just how well they're playing and wanting to play for him. And I still do feel the way I do about that hiring, but it's a credit to him for getting those guys to buy in under him right away. And I do credit him for going back to Matt Ryan because that was a smart decision, even though I think Matt Ryan's pretty much done in the league. Ellinger is just not going to give you an opportunity to win like Ryan does. And it showed this game. Obviously, I think with Matt Ryan, when you look at some of those deep balls and he doesn't have the same zip. He doesn't have the same arm strength he once did. So it's kind of tough. You got to have good games out of Jonathan Taylor for sure. But I'm very disappointed in the way their O line has been playing. A lot of miscues and dumb penalties up front, and it's just coming to bite them in the butt, and especially in a big time game like this. But when you look at the Eagles, I think it's becoming apparent that there's a definite way to beat this team. But it's just they got so much talent that they can overcome a lot, and that's what you look for in a Super Bowl type of team. And I think it's going to be hard for anyone in this NFC to beat these guys this year, especially if they're playing the way they've been playing. And I mean, Jalen Hurts, not remarkable, but he's just a leader, bro. Like, it's the complete opposite of what Rodgers is right now. He has his guys wanting to play for him. He's getting that offense into a rhythm very quickly. When they do kind of, hit the brakes a little bit, they find their way again. And I mean, obviously, I think it showed that Goddard being out this game hurts them. Huge. Because he's a focal point in that offense. And I think once they get them back, they'll get back on track when he's back in that offense and start scoring more points. But right now, it's a battle between them and Dallas. It's going to come down to the wire between them two, I think. And I mean, you got to give the thing about that game-winning play. When I watched it, it was they have such great schemes and design plays like that in that offense that it's just I mean, that defense clearly knew wherever Kelsey was going, that's where the ball was going.
Mm-hmm.
But and Hurts knew that, and he took advantage of it, and it was just wide open up the middle. And so, I mean, that's credit to them and Sirianni. I don't know. I can't give enough credit to the Eagles because I do think they're a great team. I just think, when you look at that Washington loss, it was just they beat themselves.
Yeah. And they almost beat themselves this game. They had 2 turnovers that almost cost them. But to your last point, as a defense on the Colts side, you have to know Hurts running that ball in. There's probably a 75% chance he's going to be keeping that.
Yeah.
For him to almost walk into the end zone, I mean,
it was a walk.
that scheme, like you said, I mean, that's just amazing. Expecting that, but still getting in there untouched. It's just how can you even say anything bad about that?
That's what makes this Philly offense so deadly. All credit is due for their defense. I mean, their defense doesn't give up a whole lot. Credit to them for getting 2 big signings for up the middle with Sue and Linval. It seemed like, they still got a ways to go, I think, to get up to speed with conditioning and learning the defense still. But they are, 2 great guys up the middle to stop the run, and Sue even can rush the passer a bit. But
he'll even snap your quarterback out if you ask him.
When you think about Jordan Davis coming back, that's a great 3-man rotation. I mean, they're all going to be fresh constantly during the game. So 2 huge signings that shows that Philly is all in this year. They are, it's no holds barred. I mean, it's just they're out to win it this year, and I think it has to do with, like I said to you in a text the other day, with they do have like 7 or 8 guys hitting free agency on defense this coming off season. Mm-hmm. So I think they are really trying to go out and snatch this thing while they can.
No question. They definitely see their window and they're going for it before they have to pay Jalen Hurts that big contract. So credit to them for recognizing that and going for it. We'll move from one Super Bowl contender to another. Where Buffalo wasn't able to play at home, they had to travel to Detroit to host the Cleveland Browns. And similar to the Colts, the Browns came out very strong in this game, went down, scored on their opening drive, held Buffalo to a field goal, went down again, had a chance to score, but dropped a touchdown. That put them at 10-3 when it could have been 14-3. Outside of Brissett maybe having his best game, Amari Cooper having a big game and a really big first half. Chubb wasn't able to get going, and ultimately that's why Cleveland fell short in this game, 23-31. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills end up winning this one. Passing attack probably isn't what we expected from the Buffalo side. Josh Allen was only 18 for 27, 197 yards and a touchdown. But the rushing attack as a team, they were 33 for 171. That's something we've been calling for, more of a balanced attack. maybe they don't have confidence in their run game, their blocking, their running backs, whatever it may be. But I like what they did this game. Cleveland's defense has definitely been disappointing this year. One of the games that you would like to see them show up in, especially if Josh Allen's not going to kill him. But really disappointing for Cleveland. 23-31 loss. Buffalo's got it. Maybe back in the groove of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm panicking with the Bills, but they look completely different right now than what they did to begin the season.
Yeah, they really do.
And that's a scary thing to think about, just especially when it comes down to this end of season stretch and postseason stretch. I mean, they gotta get going again quickly because, I mean, they're out to win the Super Bowl, get past Kansas City. You got to start looking like it, and I don't know. I'm slowly losing a little bit of confidence in Josh Allen to lead this team to a Super Bowl this year. I think I have to give credit to Cleveland's defense for somewhat showing up today because Josh Allen 3 carries for 7 yards. That's a huge win. I mean, doubt. That's a huge win. They kept him contained, and when you could do that, you give yourself a chance. Obviously, I think the score was a little closer than what it seemed, but I think you look at Jacoby Brissett's numbers, man, and he had a great day.
He might have had the best game he had ever.
Yeah, I think this was, especially with no turnovers, it was, you would have for Cleveland fans and Cleveland organization, you would have liked to, somehow come out with this upset because you get Deshaun back soon here. And you're hoping to get something rolling to sneak into the playoffs. But at this point, 3-7, I don't think that's going to happen. But it's going to be a confidence booster going into next year, having Deshaun back, put the bullshit to the past and not think about that crap anymore. You can move on, focus on Deshaun leading your team. And I think the Browns will be okay going into next year. But I think they battled. I think they battled hard this game, and that's all you can ask for from this Browns team this year, especially without having Deshaun, is just, put up a fight, make it close, be in the game, and give yourself a chance to win, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm. This is for sure a playoff team. With the caliber quarterback that Deshaun is, yeah, they're probably too far behind back this year to get in the playoffs, but next year they're going to be one of those sleeper teams, no question about it.
For sure.
Moving on to our next slate of games, we have Chicago on the road at Atlanta, a game that pretty much went the way that we expected it was going to go. Heavy rushing attacks for both teams. Justin Fields left the game. Well, he stayed in the game, but coming out of the game, he was a little banged up. But Atlanta goes downfield, scores 7, Bears answer, and it was pretty much back and forth like that the whole game. Fields in this one, same kind of numbers, 14-21, 153 yards and a touchdown. Did throw an interception. 18 rushes for 85 yards, something we mentioned. That's too many rushes for your quarterback. I understand it's effective, but you're just putting him in harm's way a lot. And you do have a few playmakers that you can find ways to get the ball to. You have been finding ways to get them the ball. Justin Fields just has to be better in some circumstances. Cordero Patterson, though.
Yeah, man.
The man made history, and it was pretty much the difference in this game. Kick return for a touchdown. His 9th of his career and the most in NFL history. 103 yards, 104 yards. I forget the numbers exactly, but it was a beautiful thing to see, breaking right up the middle and pretty much winning this game for Atlanta, giving them the momentum boost that they needed early in the second half. Fun game to watch, man. I don't know if you had this one on your team or on your TV. I did, right along with the Baltimore game and right next to Red Zone. But Chicago's one of my favorite teams to watch for some reason, even though they keep losing. I know the big story out of this game in Atlanta, outside of the victory, is Kyle Pitts will now miss the remainder of the season. Torn MCL, I believe it was. You shared that news with me earlier. So after a slow start and kind of a disappointing start for Kyle Pitts, it's not getting any better. He'll have to come back really strong in year 3. What were your thoughts on this game, though?
Well, first, I just want to say I hope Justin Fields does, heal up. But, I read right before we came on that he's considered day-to-day right now, but it's not ruled out for a season-ending injury because he dislocated his left shoulder. So, especially with how much he runs and takes a beating, that's not a good sign. So hopefully he can heal and recover quickly. But just ultimately take care of yourself, Justin and get back out there. But I mean, I thought Chicago had the formula to beat Atlanta this game. It just didn't happen. And I think we're starting to see a big trend, obviously, with Justin Fields. He's more so going to lead them in rushing each game while, being able to pass some, but they're not going to be a pass-heavy team. They're just going to try to hit you off balance with the pass, which is not what you typically see in football. It's more so keep you off balance with the run, hit you in the pass game. But yeah, I think, it's not a sexy matchup when it's Fields versus Mariota. It's kind of one of those games. Do I really want to watch this, or but the way they both been playing the past few games, especially Chicago putting up 29 points or more past 3 games, I think it was kind of intriguing. And it's fun to watch a guy like Cordero Patterson because he brings, it just goes to show, like, Atlanta. Once he got to Atlanta, they finally found a way how to utilize him the best, and he's playing the best ball of his career, in my opinion. And he's a showstopper, man. If he could be on a better team, it's just crazy what that team might be able to do, especially like you throw him in the mix of, shoot, if he would have signed with Philly or something. I mean, think about that offense right now. Like, he can do it all. He's not the best route runner, obviously. He's not a true wide receiver. He's more of that running back and still can catch passes. But I think at the end of the day with this game, it was just Chicago is just missing so many key pieces that, I mean, not missing,
Everywhere.
but they just don't have key pieces in a lot of space, in a lot of places where it hurts them so much. Like, it's crazy to think right now how well they're doing and keeping themselves in these games right now because of that, or not because of that, but just, due to that. And Justin is a big, all credit goes to him because he's just doing it all right now. I mean, I think he's the best rushing quarterback in the league right now. And that's it's I never thought I would say that about him. I never thought I would say that about him, but the way they've been able to find, ways how to better utilize his talents. I just wish I could see more from the passing, because when you look back at the tape from Ohio State, he was slinging that bitch. And now it's just, he's more of a runner and he can't pass. But I think you get him a few, maybe not a few, but you get him at least a couple good pieces at wide receiver to go along with Claypool. I think you could have something in the passing game, but you need a lot of help on defense. That O-line, all credit goes to them because they've been playing way above their level, their talent level, but it's still not good enough. And with, and then on Atlanta's side, I mean, just, I don't know, man. It is a big win for them in a sense because they're going to keep Mariota back there as long as they're in the playoff hunt. But I don't know. I don't know if it matters really if you play Mariota or Ritter, because they're such a run-oriented team that what's the difference going to – I mean, what's the difference really? It's just you just need a guy to kind of be the general out there, just kind of lead that offense, But I don't know. This was just kind of one of those games where it was a fun close game, but it was just nothing I really cared about, in all honesty.
I hear that. You mentioned Claypool. He did only have 2 catches for 11 yards this game. And you did mention the Bears offense. That streak of 29 points for 3 games in a row had ended, only putting up 24 this game. But I thought after giving up 38 points per game over their previous 3 games, the defense played a lot better this game, only giving up those 20 points if you don't want to account for the kick return by Cordero Patterson. So maybe find a little bit more balanced attack offensively and defensively. Chicago is, like you said, they are down a lot of talent, missing a lot of talent. Don't have a lot of talent, however you want to put it, but they are staying in a lot of these games. And Matt Eberflus, I didn't think he would be doing a good job with this team, but I am quite impressed with what he's been doing.
I'm actually really impressed. I didn't know much about him coming into this season before he got hired, but he is doing a hell of a job with what he has. And if this is, the type of coach he's going to be, and I think I'm going to judge. I don't what's his name. Their GM, is it Ryan? Not.
It's above my pay grade.
Their new GM.
Pace?
I was going to say Ryan Pace. Is that right?
Sounds familiar. We can't both
if it is,
the same
anyway,
thing and be wrong.
I'm going to judge him more so after this offseason, because I think, they're going to have a ton of cap space, and it's going to be interesting to see how he builds this team, because it wouldn't shock me if we go into next season and the Bears are one of the better teams if he does a good job.
Maybe haven't been doing the best job with the trading aspect, but they have been drafting fairly decent. So if they can keep doing that, I'm kind of confident in the Chicago team going forward. We can keep it in your division in the NFC North. We had Detroit on the road facing the Giants. This game, we had the Lions, who had the worst run defense in the league, against Saquon Barkley and this Giants offense, who rely heavily on him and Daniel Jones doing damage on the ground. But I think after Jones' first interception since week 3, the Lions went up 10-6, and they never really looked back. 3 turnovers for the Giants ultimately landed them their first loss in quite a while. I think 5 out of 6 weeks or something like that, while the Lions got their 3rd straight W. Now they have a tough game this week, Thanksgiving at Buffalo, but they are definitely riding this high right now. I know Dan Campbell's your boy. One of my players for Defensive Player of the Year, Sauce Gardner, has 2 interceptions. Your pick, Ada Hutchinson, as a D lineman, now has 2 interceptions, and I don't know how confident I feel in that pick anymore. But Detroit got this win 31-18 with the upset over the Giants. How'd you feel about this one?
I mean, I was surprised because I predicted the Giants to run all over the Lions, and they shut down Saquon. I mean, that's
15 for 22.
That is, I mean, average of 1.5 yards per carry. That is, I would never guess that in a million years. But that's a credit to me. That's a credit to Dan Campbell and his coaching staff and the way this team responds. And this should put to bed all the people who may be calling for Dan Campbell to be on the hot seat or whatever. No, they just got to keep getting this thing built. Just keep building and building and building. And I mean, I think he's the right guy for this job in Detroit. He fits that culture very well that they're trying to bring in. I don't know.
I just put those talks to bed, beating a team that a lot of people think are frauds.
They might be fraud. They could be frauds, which that's all well and fine. But I think the way they came out and really just handled them, I mean, to me, that I still think, even though it's been a disappointing season for the Lions, they're 4-6 right now. They're slowly been trying to turn their season around. They may not be a playoff team, but if you can be around 500, I'm okay with that. Like that's better than what I predicted this year for them. So if you can be around 500, I'm okay with that, and that's a sign of good things to come, I think, because you're going to move on from Jared Goff. You're going to try to find that replacement. And I mean, today they just, activated Williamson. So you're getting a big time playmaker. You're getting a big time playmaker, bro. Like I they're in our division. I'm not a Lions guy. I don't like the Lions, but to me, being in our division, I think they're the one team that I hate the least. So I tend to, I'm okay with rooting for them if we're not playing them, just because of how bad they've been, and I know their frustrations. So I think I just feel for them, So it's kind of a good thing when I see them getting upset or they win or whatever. It's kind of like, good for you guys, and they really just played really well this game, and they didn't need a whole lot of their passing attack. But I'm a big fan of, St. Brown. I think he's a really good receiver. And I think if you pair him with Williamson coming back and Williamson's healthy and he can, show some flash this year, there's a lot of promise for this team going forward. Because if they really did hit on Williamson, man, is it Williamson or Williams?
You lucky tripped me. Jameson Williamson, I think. You tripped me up saying it so many times now, I forgot.
Well, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. So, um, we'll call him Jameson, whatever. But yeah, I don't know, man. And I think Aiden Hutchinson's starting to really find his groove along that defensive line and in that defensive end position. Being only a rookie, you knew there was going to be some hiccups and kind of, learning curves. So, but to have 2 interceptions as a defensive lineman, that just shows how, great of awareness he has.
Yeah, who's this guy? TJ Watt?
They have, I'll say this, Detroit has a lot of good young building blocks in their organization right now. And as frustrating as it might be for some Lions fans to not have, a winning record right now or whatever, you guys are going in the right direction. You're not going backwards. So just, you just got to keep your head up and believe that you're going to keep building this thing and you'll start to win games sooner or later. So, and this was this was another good step to beat, especially a team who came into it with a 7-2 record. That's still, even if you're frauds or not, you're 7-2, good record.
Yep.
One of the best teams in the league. So, you gotta take pride in getting a win like that. And, for the Giants, you just kind of, Daniel Jones.
You fell into the trap. You got behind, you stopped running the ball, and you let Daniel Jones throw for 44 times. There's no way in hell you're going to win a game like that.
And I think this was probably safe to say that this was not the greatest, probably his worst game so far as a head coach calling the game in Dayball. I think it was just not the greatest game for him. He probably knows that. But, some guys just didn't show up. And
yep.
When you get, it's scary to be, a Giants fan, and it's scary to be the Giants overall because you have the weakest link at quarterback position right now in Daniel Jones trying to lead your winning football team. You're in a tough spot when he's probably having his best year in his career so far, but it's not been pretty, I guess. But when you have 27-44, 341 yards and a touchdown, it gets ruined by those 2 picks.
It does.
And it's not going to win you games. So, and then he led the team with 50 rushing yards. So, he can get it done. He just, I don't know. He's just not it, bro. So I have a feeling he'll probably get another, probably one more shot to be a starter somewhere else when he leaves New York, but it won't, it's going to be a short leash, whether it's one more year or half the year or whatever. But I don't see him making it as a full-time starter in the NFL, past two more years.
This year's been crazy, and there's been a lot of turnover from week to week. And last week, the word around New York was, both teams are on the top of the world now. Probably going to be looking for quarterbacks sooner than they thought in both situations. So, who knows if that's overreaction. In one situation, it might be. In one situation, we've probably seen enough of Daniel Jones. But I don't know. I've probably seen enough of Zach Wilson, too. But we can get to that later. But I agree with you. Daniel Jones might be in a Taylor Heineke kind of role. Maybe a Carson Wentz kind of role where he's going to go somewhere, but he's not going to be the for sure starter. Maybe a Drew Lock. He's going to have to win the job from somebody.
I'll say this. I think if Taylor Heineke was the quarterback of the New York Giants right now, they would be a lot more fun to watch.
Probably. He is a fun quarterback to watch. Daniel Jones isn't the worst. He has a bad connotation to him because of what we've seen for his first few years, but he's getting better, and at least he's playing better under Dayball. I don't know if he's gotten better. But I think he definitely is more fun to watch at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. The Giants just feel like a team where, and I suppose
they're just very limited, man.
I suppose you could say this about the Vikings too. But the Giants just feel like a team where the fun is just going to come to an abrupt stop.
Why do you say that?
I don't see that because you're gonna have
it more so for them. Why for you though?
No, I'm saying there's some people out there who would probably say the same thing about us as I am saying as I'm saying about the Giants right now. there's people out there who think the same as I. What I think about the Giants right now is probably what a lot of people, especially after last night, would say about the Vikings. And that's fair after that way we played. But obviously I'll get to talking about that at a different point. But what I'm just saying is I think there's only so much Daboll can do with this team that he has right now.
Yeah, he's kind of in the same situation as Eberflus is, and he's really doing the best of this situation, twofold compared to what Chicago's got going on. I thought it was impressive I think DJ Chark was out, and you obviously mentioned Jameson Williams was out. Jameson, he was gone, obviously. He'll be making his debut soon. Swift hobbled a little bit. Goff didn't have a big game, only 165 pass yards, but this team did put up 31 points still against the New York Giants defense that has been really good so far this season. I know Williams didn't have the biggest numbers, 17 to 64, but he did have 3 touchdowns, and ultimately that is the name of the game, get the ball in the end zone. So as a Detroit Lions, I wouldn't say fan, but I kind of feel like the same way you do. I'm only a fan of one team, but if I'm going to cheer for somebody, I'm not hopping on Patriots or Chiefs bandwagon. I'll pick one of these lesser teams that I like what the future holds,
Yeah.
I think this is a good boost for them going next week to Buffalo.
I think they're a team right now, especially
back on track.
I think the way they played the past 2 weeks, and it's got the confidence boost that they continue to get after each win, and it's going to be a short week. I don't know if Buffalo went back to Buffalo and is coming all the way back to Detroit on a short week, or if they just stayed there. But that's kind of a tough situation that Buffalo's in with having to come to Detroit this past Sunday to play a home game.
When did they fly? Saturday, right?
Saturday, yeah.
Do teams usually fly Saturday?
I believe so, yeah. They fly the day before and then stay the night.
Would you have flied sooner, given that it was supposed to be a home game and you were dealing with the blizzard?
I don't
want to say that's why Buffalo started slow to go back a couple.
No,
games.
I might have done what they did, because if you can get out of there on Saturday, that's probably what I do. I don't want to stay out of town more than one night.
Fair enough.
But at the same time, like I said about what I'm saying about Detroit is just like I do believe that, and we'll get to it with our predictions tomorrow. But I do believe this Detroit team will play Buffalo very tough. And I think that anytime some team has to face the Lions the rest of the way this year, it's going to be a very tough game.
I agree. Moving on, we have the Rams on the road against the Saints. Coming into the game, we knew Kupp was gone for the rest of the season. Coming out of the game, we lost Stafford again. Now, I was hearing concussion symptoms, but then I was reading again today. That's not what the situation is. Either way, he didn't finish the game. But the Rams did finish the game with the L, 20-27. Stafford, before he left, was 11 for 18, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. So not playing too bad. Robinson, Atwell, not playing too bad. Atwell had a big 67-yard touchdown. Robinson incorporated himself more with the absence of Cooper Kupp. Akers, early in the game, was running, pretty efficiently. Towards the end of the game, that came to a screeching halt when the backup quarterback came in. Saints, though, offensively, 27 points. Andy Dalton, 21-25, having one of his better games of the season, one of the better games of his career, probably. 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Probably a little bit too late, but the Saints do get their win. The Rams are probably over with for the playoff hopes. I know Jameis Winston, after the game, was upset, saying that he lost his job due to injury, and we were saying that, that shouldn't be the case. If he's healthy, he should have been the guy in the starting lineup for the past few weeks. But Dalton does play well this game and gets the W. What do you think about this game right here?
I mean, it was really a game I didn't care about because it's two teams who are pretty much dead, left
out
for
of
dead.
the playoffs. Yeah. To be transparent with you guys going forward, games like this, we're probably not going to have our eyes on these ones too closely unless we're really interested in a matchup or a certain player in the game.
But at the same time, I did watch some of it. It's so crazy to see a team win the Super Bowl and have the season they did last year and then come out and be a shit show at 3-7. There's just nothing going right for them. They're battling injuries. It's tough to see, but it's just, I mean, I guess for me, it's, where is he here?
you see Super Bowl hangover, but you don't see bottom 5 team in the league the next year.
No. Like you're if you're anything, it's more so you just hit the mediocre slump. But you're very bad. You're very bad this year, though. There's just no coming back from this, and it's tough because when you got guys like Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, that it's just like, dude, you don't even hear their names this year like you're used to, and it's just they're not being talked about, and it's like our team's just stop not worried about them? Are they not playing up to their level? Are they just giving up? Or I don't know what the case may be, but it's just weird not hearing their names like I'm used to. And I just think it's just like at this point, you cut it as a loss this year and you try to get back to relevancy next year. But it's going to be hard to do because you guys have shot yourself in the foot big time with trading away so many draft picks.
This is, in my opinion, the worst situation in the NFL right now.
It's not looking, and then Stafford's at the end of his rope, dude. Like
that's why
with injuries and everything. Like, what are you gonna do now? Like, what you can take Goff back. He's gonna be available.
There's gonna be a lot of quarterback movement this year, so you can maybe suffer a loss of Stafford somehow, but it's gonna be tough. I don't even think you can lose him contractually.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's ugly, and I don't have much else to say about the Rams. But on the Saints side, man, do I love this Chris Olave? I think he's a special wide receiver.
5 for 102.
They got something good there, and I think it's tough because next year, if they're pretty much just a quarterback away.
They have been. Yep.
It's just a court. I mean, because Dalton and Taysom and freaking Jameis, they're not going. It's clear that they're not going to get you to where you want to go. So I just think you need to hit on your next quarterback, whether it's free agency or draft, whatever. But you're a quarterback away because you got a talented roster.
Your defense probably took a step back this year, losing a couple guys, Marcus Williams, and so on and so forth. But offensively, I think you're still very effective with Kamara and the weapons you have on the outside. Dalton's not going to play like this probably for the rest of the season, 21 to 25. But
no,
he can be efficient and he can be effective. But if you have a quarterback, something in between a Dalton and a Breeze. I don't expect a 5,000-yard passer in this offense.
Right.
I don't expect a 3,000-yard passer either. You need something that's going to be not a game manager, but somebody that can win a couple of these games. Maybe a Derek Carr or something like that next year. We'll see. But, yeah, New Orleans probably out of the playoff race, but probably hanging on by the skin of their teeth because the NFC South is a weird division right now. Them and Atlanta, I guess, do still have a chance depending on how Tampa finishes out this season.
Well, and, I can't count out New Orleans just yet because I think they play everyone in their division very well, especially Tampa Bay. So, yep. I mean, there's still a glimmer of hope there for them.
Next game, we have Washington on the road at Houston. Pick 6 early for the Commanders, put them up 7-0, and they pretty much never look back. Taking the lead in the halftime, 20-0. They win this game 23-10, and they are winners of 5 and 6. Now 6 and 5, I believe, is their record. Maybe 5 and 5. I don't know. 6 and 5 sounds right. 5. Yeah. Heineke, like you said, not the biggest numbers, but the guys believe in him. He's a good leader. He's a good locker room guy. Brings energy and brings something to this offense that Carson Wentz wasn't bringing. 15-27, 191 yards, no touchdowns, but the team as a whole, 40 rushes, 153 yards and a touchdown. Didn't need to do much against this Houston team. Pretty much gave him the game early. Davis Mills struggled. I think if I could take one thing back this season, it would be having him as my 20th ranked quarterback in our quarterback ranking episode before the season started. Pierce, though, we want to talk about some running backs that have been shut down this week, and Barkley, maybe Henry, if you want to say that. Chubb was shut down a little bit. Pierce was one of those guys as well. 10 for 8 yards, so under a yard a carry. It was pretty embarrassing.
I think that has to do with the fact they got down so quickly. Halftime was 20-0. I mean, they were fighting from behind right away, trying to get back into the game. And I don't think he had a shot to get in a rhythm. But I also don't believe this team is gonna.
Can I rebuttal that?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, Washington put up their 20th point right at the end of the half. So 13-0. Do you feel like you're out of the game at 13-0? Because I'm still running the ball with one of my best.
I think when you're a 1-7 and one team, like you're gonna do everything you can to make this thing as close as possible. Because every team in the league is pretty much calling you, an easy game. We're gonna win this game.
You're the first pick.
So I don't know. It's a definitely a I'm not making excuses for Damian Pierce, but overall though, it's just this team is so bad. Davis Mills isn't the guy. I feel bad for Lovie Smith because I think he's out of there at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But what do you expect when you're handed a shit show of a team and you hit on a couple nice draft picks this past draft, and you got some building blocks, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot of work needs to be done to fix this Houston team.
Yeah, no question. That game was a stinker. I don't have a lot to say about that one. These next two games were stinkers as well, both 3-3 going into the fourth quarter. We have Carolina at Baltimore, but first we have the Jets on the road at New England. I don't even really want to talk about this game. I just want to talk about a couple stats that I wrote down. So first downs, we had New England 13-6. Total yards, we had New England 297 to 103. Yards per play, we had New England 5 to 2.1. So they're really dominating the Jets in every facet of the game offensively. Wilson finished this game with 9 completions on 22 attempts, 77 yards. Less completions than the team had punts, which was 10 in total. The Jets had 2 yards of offense in the second half, -2 yards gained in the fourth quarter. This is just embarrassing, dog. 2.77 inches per play in the second half.
Zach Wilson is trash.
You wake up with Morning Wood that can gain more yards than that. Zach Wilson, to that point, I think it's time for him to go. It's either Joe Flacco or Mike White time in New York. You have a chance to get into the playoffs. You have a really, really, really good defense and a really good coach.
I'm comfortable.
You can't squander this opportunity.
I think Robert Saleh said everything's on the table still to make some changes after his press conference today. So I'm very comfortable. I'm not a huge fan of Flacco and where he's at in his career, but I'm comfortable with him leading the way the rest of the way, just due to the fact that I have to know in my heart of hearts that we're not a Super Bowl team this year. But if we can sneak into the playoffs and possibly, steal a game, I'm cool with that. So let's throw in the veteran who, might not have been, great to start the season, but I think he's going to be a lot better off, especially with how this defense is getting rolling and they've been playing as of late. I feel comfortable with Flacco going in right away. Zach Wilson, dude, he's a joke. It's, bro, you're not an NFL starter. You're just never going to be. And the fact that you can't take accountability and say that what was his quote that
I can't remember, but what they asked him if he felt like he was responsible or if he let the defense down or something.
Yeah, he simply said no. And like, dude, you already know how the New York media is. I mean, they're not going to let this go. Like, they're going to eat you alive. But you're still a young quarterback. And I mean, you even have a rookie, Sauce Gardner, liking a tweet today, pretty much calling out you're just not taking accountability. And it's pathetic. You got guys in that locker room who don't respect you and don't like you, and it's clear. And that's going to drive that locker room into the ground. And Saleh needs to do something about it now and not let it get away from him.
No question. On top of all those reasons, you lost Breece Hall. If you're going to have to go with more of a passing attack, go with Flacco. If you felt comfortable throwing the ball with him 50 times a game earlier in the season, whatever, knock that down to 34, but you can still have a decent kind of offensive attack. What you have right now is similar to what Carolina had earlier in the year, where when Baker got hurt, we thought that was going to be a big problem, but he was playing like the worst quarterback in the league right now. That's what you have right now in New York. So getting rid of Wilson isn't going to be a problem. Anybody's going to be an upgrade from this.
Oh, for sure. I mean, put Wentz in there.
See, I don't even want to touch that. Anything else on this game before we move on?
No, I just, I think it's a credit for how New York's offense played, and Zach Wilson especially, for their defense to keep him in it as long as they did. But at the same time, how putrid for New England's offense. Like, they have a solid defense, but their offense is so putrid. I'm starting to lose a lot of faith in Mac Jones very quickly.
I guess I should mention, I did say this game was 3-3. It was 3-3 until 5 seconds left when New England returned a punt for a touchdown, the only punt return this year in the NFL. So I guess that's that for this game. I mean, that's all I have to say.
I mean, yeah, I'm just, I'm not going to try to shit on New England because we got them this week, and we already know what happens when I shit on the team.
You don't want to poo-poo them right now.
And especially with Bill Belichick still leading the way, but on a short week. I thought it was a little bit of a letdown that, you couldn't take advantage of the game more so when Wilson was just handing it to you constantly.
We'll go my team, your team, and then we'll wrap this up pretty quickly here. Baltimore was coming off of a bye. I think that either goes one of two ways. You come out strong or you look lackadaisical, and we started pretty sloppy this game. I think our first drive was 5 plays, 3 drop passes, and it never really got any better. Like I mentioned before the last game, this went into the fourth quarter tied at 3-3. Justin Tucker, obviously, another field goal. And then we get a strip by Marcus Peters, giving us good field position. We run the ball in for a touchdown, giving us a 13-3 victory. Not really impressed by this offense that the Ravens put on display this game, but the defense, I did like what I saw. Held that rushing attack to a very limited yards that they have in Carolina. That's been very good since the trade of Christian McCaffrey. Baker Mayfield, a guy that has lit us up in the past, but he just doesn't have it. Similar to Zach Wilson, this is probably going to be his last year as a starting quarterback in this league. Offensively, I mean, Robinson had a big game for us, had 9 for 128. Mark Andrews made his return, had 6 big catches. We got him incorporated early. The rushing offense isn't what I like to see. I like to see us more efficient, be able to break off a lot more big plays, but we are missing some guys in that backfield. All in all, though, defensively, I think we're kind of getting back to our identity. We're playing very well. Offensively, we have some things to work on for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just more so the offensive struggles is what's holding you back. I think the passing game is very lackluster. I do like having a guy like Demarcus Robinson. I think he's gonna help out a lot going forward. Especially, it was just a big, it felt like Lamar really trusted him this game, and I think it will, benefit going forward. But it's just very, when Lamar can't pass for any touchdowns against Carolina. I mean, Carolina, credit, they do have pretty solid defense.
They do, but still not an excuse.
No, it's just, especially with how electric Lamar can be. And I know we're missing some, I know we wish we had some more wide receiver pieces over there to help him out, but I think we're just leaving a lot on the table right now that we don't want to be doing.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. I like our playmakers, but I just don't think the scheme fits for what their abilities are. A bunch of 5'10" guys that are 185. We're a heavy run offense team, so having a whole bunch of speed guys really isn't beneficial for our run game, which is kind of why we've been struggling this year. But also, I mentioned Lamar's not the most accurate guy, so having those guys isn't the best option for him.
Yeah, I think, but being 7-3 though, you got to still have some confidence, obviously, and I think if this defense continues to improve on each week, I think once playoffs hit, it's going to be one team to watch out for because Baltimore is never a team you want to see in the playoffs.
That's for sure. We definitely have that formula that can keep us in a lot of these games, but definitely going to need to see a lot more from this passing offense. Maybe more than 2 wide receivers would help Lamar be more efficient in this passing game. We run a lot of tight ends out there, a lot of 1 wide receiver, 2 wide receiver sets. So I just don't like that, but it's been working for us so far. I mean, for the past few seasons anyway. This year, our offense is just really taking a step back, in my opinion. So something I'd like to see change for sure. Now, in the
All right,
words of
time
the
to wrap it
great,
up.
in the words of the great American philosopher Kelly Clarkson, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Shit.
Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Vikings, 40-3, and I don't even have anything to say. You got it, dog.
Straight fucking embarrassing. I mean, it's embarrassing to have to come on here and actually talk about this game, but
we knew it was gonna happen to one of us eventually.
I think, the way this season's going, been going and is continuing to go, like this shouldn't have been a surprise to me because I don't know. I don't have words for this. It's just no one showed up to play. And in any sort of facet of the game, special teams, defense, offense, no one came to play. It was just kind of a game where we showed up, but no one actually came to play. It's just let's go through the motions, and we're going to let them do what they want. And that's what happened. And it was just absolutely mind-boggling. I think I'm going to say it right now. I don't think Dallas is as good as what the score says they are. But
no way.
And they're definitely not gonna beat Philadelphia in the playoffs. So let's get that out of the way right now. Like, Dallas is not going to the Super Bowl. Everyone who thinks after this game that they are, well, you're gonna in for a rude awakening. And and I have never came on here claiming that my Vikings will go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. So let's just put that to bed right now, because I believe that I have always came on here and have been pretty fair about my team this year. Like, I've called us frauds. I've called our defense very soft and suspect. Like, and it all came to fruition last night. It was ugly, and they exposed a lot of areas of our team. And I'm gonna go out and say, like, we will come back from this and we'll turn it around, because I think at the end of the day, if I had to say we were going to lose to Dallas, I would have said more so along the lines of like 24-14 or something like that. But, they blew us out of the water. And I don't know, man. I think Darisaw going out hurts, but our line got shattered after he went out, but he still was, to blame for a couple pressures and a sack. Yeah. I mean, you have to really scheme for Micah Parsons, because I think the man is just unbelievable. I've never seen, it's crazy. I don't have words for it. He just goes out there and he just absolutely demolishes whoever he lines up across from. It's just, but at the same time, it makes me wonder, like, what the hell were you guys doing with him during the Green Bay game? Because I don't understand. Like,
somebody bet money on that one.
I don't know, man. You just look at it. Kirk, for all the people who are going to say, primetime Kirk, whatever, he didn't even have a chance from the jump in this game to even fuck it up. So fair. He just didn't have a chance to fuck it up. So he got, sacked 7 times, the most in his career. We were pressured on 63% of play or dropbacks or whatever, which is insane. It's like one of those games where you, like me and you, go on and play Madden, and I just, like, I can't get anything to work, and I quit the game halfway through. There's just no words for it. It just, if you replay this game 9 more times, this doesn't happen again. Like, this was just a complete outlier. And I think I'm not going to make an excuse for it, because there is none, but we are a team who tends to, when we come off a big emotional game, like, a big emotional win, like New Orleans in the playoffs, and now Buffalo last week, like, we completely shit the bed the next game. And it's, I'm glad it happened now and not in the playoffs, because we will be in the playoffs. So I'm glad it happened now and we can get that taste out of our mouth. But at the same time, man, it opens up a lot of questions about us, and it is fair to call us frauds. It is fair to go back to that we're not for real. But at the same time, I will gladly take all those haters the rest of the season because I want that chip on our shoulder the rest of the season. Until we end completely and we go home for the offseason, I want that fucking big chip on our shoulder to go out there and play our tails off, because this was complete bullshit. It was embarrassing, and there's no point to even get into the stats. There's no point to even do all that because we see what happened.
I was just going to ask if you wanted me to or not.
Like, we see what happened. Like, but at the same time, you start off the game and you get a great drive. TJ Hawkinson, back-to-back plays. You got to fucking catch the ball, bro.
Yeah. 2 drops.
Like,
huge.
That, not saying that changes the game, but it definitely makes it more of a morale boost and a confidence boost that we got in the end zone. Now let's go do it again. Instead of settling for a fucking 3 inside the 10-yard line. Like,
instead of 40-3, that makes it 30-13.
Like,
it's a little bit more respectable.
So it's I don't know, dude. It's just one of the worst Vikings games I've seen in a long time. I mean, probably since that playoff exit that we had.
Mm-hmm.
But like I texted you, people can quickly forget, but New Orleans beat Tampa Bay 38-3, and Tampa went on to win the Super Bowl. So let's not just, it's not the end of the world. There's still, what is it, 7 games left, 8 games left?
Depending on who you are, yeah.
Like, for us, 7 games. So, okay, 7 games left. Like, there's a lot of season left. Like, I'm glad it happened now. Like, if it was going to happen now, not in the playoffs. Like, let's move on from it. Let's learn from it. Let's dust ourselves off, get back to work. I think sometimes these things need to happen to a team, though, to get moving in the right direction. And this could be a catalyst boost for us because, I'm sick of losing these I'm sick of winning these games by 1 score or coming down to the last drive. Like, this has got to be a gut check time where, we got to have some fucking urgency in these games. We can't just lay down and be a fourth quarter team every fucking game. Like, it's absolutely atrocious. It's pathetic. You're not paid to do that. Yes, you're paid to win games, but not in that fashion every single week, dude. Like, you got to have convincing wins. And I've been saying that all year long. And guess what? Credit to freaking Mike McCarthy and his staff, especially Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn will be a head coach next year again. And
I think he said he doesn't want to be.
Oh, well, if he doesn't, well, kudos to Mike McCarthy for being able to keep him on staff, because I really think that dude is one of the best.
Saving your ass right now, Mike.
Like, but let's keep it real, bro. Like, the Vikings defense, they didn't show. Like I said, no one showed up to play, but they didn't do. You could tell by just pure body language out there, especially on defense. Like, we weren't doing anything to stop them. Like, we couldn't stop a fucking nosebleed on 3rd down. I think at one point, I don't know what their final stats were, but they were 8 for 10 at one point, which is absolutely crazy. Like, and they were just running it at will on us.
12 for 17 is what they finished to your 1 for 11.
Yeah, pathetic. And I mean, Dak didn't do anything special. He didn't have to.
It was 22 at 25.
Right, but it wasn't like he lit it. I mean, he didn't really light it up. This was the Tony Pollard show.
This was definitely the Tony Pollard show. I mean, Dak put up a good show. I mean, as well, 22 at 25, 276 and 2 touchdowns. But Pollard is what's going to make this offense be explosive for the rest of the season. I think Dak has found a little bit of a connection with CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, and those other guys out there. Pretty decent as well, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz. But Tony Pollard is what makes this offense different and puts them above where they used to be when it was just Zeke back there.
Bro. And, and listening to Realistic Randy last night after the game and his reaction, he felt the same way I do about Andrew Booth. This dude is a bum. He is atrocious. This was the equivalent of Josh Freeman trying to quarterback the Vikings against the Giants. It was that bad. Like,
That is bad.
He is bad, bro. There's a reason now that you see a Caleb Evans who was drafted after him a couple rounds that is starting in front of him, and he was out this week with a concussion. You need to get him back. You need to get Cameron Dantzler back, and that helps and boosts our secondary a lot right there.
Yep.
But with Andrew Booth, he's a complete liability on defense at any point in time that he's out there. This is a moment that the coaching staff goes, okay, we cannot start this man ever again. He's got to have a lot more reps in practice. He's got to study a lot more film, and he's just got to go to work this offseason if he wants a chance in this league, because this man was brutal.
Enough said. Let's move to the AFC West, where we had the Vegas Raiders taking on the Denver Broncos. And then a game that I jokingly said would be game of the week ended up going to overtime. First drive, Denver Broncos had under their new offensive coordinator, or play caller, I guess you want to say, Kubiak's son. Can you remind me of his first name?
Clint
Kubiak. Was he your offensive coordinator before?
Last year.
He was, okay. He took over for Denver this game. Went down the field on the first drive, easy 7 points. Looked like things were going to start turning around. From that point on, though, 3 field goals for the rest of the game, and their first third down conversion didn't come till 1 minute remaining in the second quarter. So Denver's offense stalled out just like they usually do. On the other side, they finally found that connection. Carr and Adams, this game, 7 receptions for 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the score in overtime to seal this game for the Raiders. You know, I think we think Adams has had a slow start to the season, but he is 8th in receptions, 4th in yards, and 2nd in touchdowns, only behind a guy who we'll mention a little bit later who had 3 touchdowns last night. So outside of that amazing performance, he would have been leading the league after week 11 in touchdowns. So Davante Adams definitely showing that he might be a little bit quarterback proof and that he can do this wherever he goes, no matter the situation. But Vegas gets this win, maybe a little bit too late, but fair enough showing for this offense at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a Nathaniel Hackett hater. Let me just state that. But I think it shows a lot for him to give up play calling duties to another guy like Clint Kubiak, because he obviously sees that it's not working with him. So it's credit to him for doing that, but I still think he needs to be on the hot seat and probably one of the first coaches to go this offseason. So with that being said, this game wasn't much to write home about, but I do think that Davante Adams is still
Top five.
He's still a beast. It's just been one of those rough seasons, you know. It's just I don't know what the answer is going to be in Las Vegas going forward, but I don't think it has anything to do with Josh McDaniels, that's for sure.
He's not the answer, no. He'll probably be done. Both of these coaches will probably be out of there.
This was the biggest letdown for two teams this season with how much hype they had.
These two teams and the Rams, there's no question about it.
Just bad.
You got anything else on this one? We can move to the AFC North if you don't.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this no more.
Yeah, I'm cool on Denver. Sorry. This one, we had Cincinnati on the road facing Pittsburgh. And in a season of bad quarterback play, Joe Burrow really showed why he was that dude. No Jamar Chase, and he did lose Mixon in this game. But 5th straight game of 30-plus points for the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Samaje Perine stepped right in and placed for Mixon. 3 reception touchdowns. And they had a big receiving output for Higgins as well, 9 for 148. So without Jamar Chase, without Mixon, this offense didn't really seem to be missing anything. Joe Burrow did have 2 interceptions. One was on a great play by T.J. Watt. But I think this Bengals offense is really clicking. This team is really looking good right now. On the other side of things, Pickett didn't look too bad to me. The run game was getting a little more efficient. Second week in a row where that's looked pretty decent. I won't say good. It's looked decent. Outside of that, though, I mean, they gave up 400 yards defensively. That's just not a staple of this Mike Tomlin defense. It's not a staple of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Joe Burrow is a bad man, and even without his two best weapons, he's able to do that to you. So credit to Cincinnati. Pittsburgh definitely always have my respect. This game, no exception. Putting up 30 points against the Cincinnati team when you're very limited offensively, very impressive. Cincinnati, though, they're just clicking. They're on a mission, picking up right where they did last year as well. This is right around that same spot. So I don't know what you have to say about this game, but Cincinnati is a team that I'm hoping they don't get hot, man, because our schedules look a lot different, and I'm hoping we can keep this number one spot in the AFC North.
Yeah, it's Cincinnati, man. If they do get clicking, it's going to be scary because they still got a lot of talent. But I think Jamar Chase is going to come out with a bang when he comes back. I mean, they got so many weapons in the past game that it's just scary. And I don't know, man. They do have one Achilles heel on defense, and you know who that is?
Awuzie?
Eli Apple.
Oh, I knew it was one of those DBs. I actually think Awuzie is good. Eli
Apple is gonna. He
has his moments, but he is.
He has his moments where he shows up, but he also has a lot of moments where he just completely lets that team down.
Yeah,
and that is the worst thing to see from a defensive back when you need to come up with just clutch plays and you get burned or you just don't make the play, and it is just, man, it's so frustrating. And I just think that they're definitely going to be moving on from him after the season. That's my prediction, at least. But on to Pittsburgh, though. I mean, I think we're going to continue. I think we're going to continue to see Pickett, grow more and more each week. I just think that he fell into the right place in the draft and surrounded with the right coaches. Not saying he's gonna be, an MVP type quarterback or anything, but he's definitely got a lot of potential, and he's in a good system, good culture. I think especially when you can have a guy like George Pickens growing with you too, that's going to be huge for chemistry going forward. But the way they played Cincinnati, I wouldn't have expected it to be like this, because and the biggest surprise was them putting up 30 points. Like, that
no
is
question.
I didn't expect that at all. Like, if they were going to keep it close, it would be more so like 23-17 or something like that. But
right.
30 points, that's, hats off to them. Obviously giving up 37, like you said, it's not like a Tomlin defense to do, but I don't know. It was funny because, I personally, I didn't even finish. This is the first time that I can say, like, I truly did not finish a Vikings game from start to finish. I turned it off. And after I turned it off, I was on social media and I was reading, and I didn't realize everyone.
You didn't even watch any other football? You said, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I said I'm done, bro. I spent the evening with Lexi and my son, and watched movies and whatever. But I had to get my mind off of that shit. But I was reading on social media that just how pissed a lot of Cowboys fans were around America because they actually shut off the Vikings Cowboys game and turned it to Steelers Bengals.
Oh, yes, they did do that.
So that is so funny, and that just goes to show like how bad and terrible we were last night, and we didn't even show up to play, and they just shut us off. Like, some were saying like, you wouldn't have done that if the Cowboys were losing, and I'm like, you're damn right they wouldn't have.
You guys really get the most disrespect around the league, like less than the Raiders, less than Houston, Jacksonville. I don't really understand it, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, man, that was just funny. That was one of the, I forgot I was going to mention that because I thought that was hilarious, but anything to piss off Cowboys fans, honestly.
We can wrap it up. Sunday Night Football. We had another AFC West battle. Preseason would have been game of the week. Still was a pretty good game, though. In the second half of what will probably be the last matchup between these two teams, we had the Chiefs taking out the Chargers 30-27. Pretty back and forth game. from start to finish. I think the Chiefs took a lead early. KC took one late when Mahomes hit Kelsey on a go-ahead touchdown with 31 seconds left, connecting for their third score of the day. Kelsey, I think, 33 now 33 times of over 100 yards is now the record in the NFL. I think him and Mahomes now have either 44 or 45 touchdowns as a combination between them, which is getting up there as far as duos go all time. These guys are really just on another level right now. We thought the loss of Tyreek Hill would really be a detriment to this offense, but Patrick Mahomes, we talked about Joe Burrow being that dude. This dude is that dude on a whole nother tier right now. Chargers, they dealt with a lot of injuries. They did have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen come back. Williams left the game after he made a nice catch on the sideline with that high ankle sprain. Didn't come back into the game. Allen did finish the game. Made a big catch late that put Chargers in scoring position, but ultimately this team was probably just dealing with too many injuries, and Chiefs are just like that, man. 30-27.
I was actually surprised to see how close this game was because, the way I feel about the Chargers right now, it's just I would have said Chiefs by at least 10 or 2 touchdowns, or 10 points to 14 points. But
Yep.
towards the end of the game, I was thinking, damn, the Chargers might pull this off. But don't count out Mahomes, man. It's just you can't do it. This dude is unreal, and
We're really getting to a point where it was like Brady in the early 2000s, mid 2010s, where it was just like,
yeah, I have
45 seconds. Tuck your kids in bed, man. Game's over.
The way I feel right now about the Chiefs. I just think they might not be overall as talented as maybe the Eagles or whatever, but I just if I had to see the Chiefs and Eagles in the Super Bowl, I would definitely put my money on the Chiefs because they have Mahomes and Philly doesn't.
Simple and plain.
Like
The AFC Championship, every year he's been a starter. He performs in every game except for the second half against Cincinnati last year, which was an outlier. I mean, if there's anybody you put your money on, it's 15.
At this point where I'm at, like, if I really had to guess, my Super Bowl champion is probably the Chiefs, man. Like, I just think that Mahomes is so special, and I think the way that team they just have so much chemistry, it seems, and like just everyone goes to battle for one another. And I mean, it's damn near impossible to stop that Mahomes-Kelsey duo. Like, you just can't.
If they're putting Derwin James on him and Derwin James can't stop Kelsey, I mean, he got off that line on that last play untouched and ran away from Derwin James. So he also made another play up the sideline early in the game where he was running away from the DBs. I didn't think he was that fast. I know he was quick in a confined area, but Kelsey's one of the best weapons this league has ever seen, man.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of season left, and I mean, crazy shit's been happening all season long, and probably will continue to be going on like that. But my God, dude, like, I just don't see an NFC team beating an AFC team in the Super Bowl.
It's kind of looking that way for me too, whether it be Buffalo or Kansas City.
Yeah, I'd have to put my money on either of those two teams. It's just the overall. I think when it comes down to, I think we're accustomed to seeing close games in the Super Bowl. So if it comes down to that, my money is on Bills or Chiefs if they're there, because they have a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? They can just find ways and get it done at the end of the games, like more so than other teams, especially in the NFC. That's how I feel. I think they're built to last tough times at end of fourth quarter going into overtime. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs Bills games the past 2 years. It's just those teams are built that way. And as good as the Eagles are, there's no way in hell I could put my money on the Eagles to beat either of those teams.
Not as it sits right now. Even with the way the Buffalo Bills have been playing lately, I have more confidence in Josh Allen being able to lead a drive like that to end of the game than I do in Jalen Hurts and Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to have to agree with those two AFC teams being top of the tier. Maybe even throw Cincinnati up there over my own team, because Joe Burrow is a fucking problem. So I think
And
that's more
that's,
where you guys land is in that Cincinnati tier. Philadelphia, Minnesota is right there too.
I think, the thing that scares me about Philly is they're loaded with talent, but how much do you really trust Jalen Hurts? Because he's only in his second year, and he just doesn't. We haven't seen enough overall from him where you're comfortable being like, can you lead us downfield and win this game right now? And I just don't feel confident in him in that scenario right now. I mean, he showed he could win a game on pretty much a walk-off yesterday, but I think that was more scheme than anything. I mean, it wasn't him. It wasn't him throwing the ball, or it wasn't dishing it out all over the field, leading a 60-yard, 70-yard drive. The win the way they won just kind of fell into their laps. Like Indy gave it to him. Like, here you go.
Indy should have won that game for sure.
So for me, it's just I think Philly has a great defense, but I don't think they could hold up against a firepower offense like the Bills or Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's just when you get down to it, I think the Eagles are the best NFC team, but I just don't feel confident in them when it comes to a big game like the Super Bowl. Yes, they could get there, but I don't really like their chances in the Super Bowl.
The three best teams are you guys, Dallas, and Philly. And the difference between this conversation in the NFC this year and last year is those top two quarterbacks are not Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. So we really don't have the confidence until we see it in those teams.
Oh, man. You look at Kirk, you look at Dak, and you look at Jalen. For me, it goes, for me, truly, it goes Jalen, Kirk, and Dak. But at the end of the day, you throw them. I mean, I think I'll say this over and over again. The way we beat Buffalo, like 99 times out of 100, we lose that game. Point blank. Like, that's just what it is. But you throw those three quarterbacks in a big primetime global game. You got Mahomes and Allen who are built for that shit. These three, I don't think they are.
I can't say that I disagree with that. You got to prove it first. I think Jalen Hurts is made of the right stuff. I just don't think he's there yet. Kirk Cousins.
I think Jalen. Yeah, I think Jalen has probably the most mental toughness out of the three, and the most he's got the more drive, and he's got the more awareness. But he just doesn't have that. He's not a gunslinger.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that in him. He's more of, I'm going to methodically lead the team down the field with passes, and I'm going to take off and run. I'm going to hand it off, RPOs, and you're going to need a lot more than that to stop a high-powered offense like the Chiefs and the Bills.
They can maybe try to incorporate some of the Oklahoma offense to make him more of a gunslinger, but this is probably what we're going to be getting for Jalen Hurts for the rest of his career. He'll make slight improvements in certain areas, but I don't want to say he's tapped out because I don't think he has it all. But This is definitely this kind of style that he's going to be going forward.
So he's definitely, to me, in that sense, he's definitely a quarterback that you have to.
He's a better Dak. Let's just put it that way.
And you have to methodically build your team around him. Like you have to be very aware.
Right pieces.
Yeah, you have to be very aware of who you're putting around him to succeed.
I think A.J. Brown was a great start to that.
Yeah, they did a great job so far.
Bringing in Deshaun Jackson or something. Like A.J. Brown would have been great for a team like us, who's very run heavy. And he's a big physical receiver who has a big catch radius and make a lot of plays on the ball and after catch. So, credit to this Philadelphia front office. We've said it a couple of times over the past few episodes, more so recently after they made these big signings on the defensive line this past week in Linval and Sue. But definitely a team that recognizes their window and they're going for it. Do you have anything else on this Kansas City Chargers game before we get out of here? Right now we have San Francisco up 7-3 on the Cardinals, 13.5 left in the second quarter.
No, I think I've covered everything. It was another crazy freaking week in the NFL, and it's just I'm so glad that we play again right away Thursday because I couldn't last until Sunday having to deal with all the talk.
Yeah, I ain't even got time to think about it. You're probably at practice today, flying out Wednesday or something. So, yeah, y'all be fine, man. I think New England won't pose much of a threat offensively for you guys. We don't have to get into it today, but I think you'll bounce back just fine.
Yeah, but no, it was I mean, it wasn't the most glamorous slate of games all weekend. I think there's better ones to come, obviously, but it's a good week because it's 3 games on Thursday, Thanksgiving, and I think next year they said that they're gonna have their 3 Thanksgiving games and 1 on Black Friday.
Wow, that'll be interesting. Gonna be a crazy pod schedule next year, then.
Yeah, for sure. No, but I'm good to go. I've covered pretty much everything I had to say. So
I'm good too, man. Well, until next time, we appreciate y'all. Peace.